94 Rocks The Dark. It is that time again. It's time to get to know a band we play here on The Dark. And tonight I am on the phone with David Pappalardo. He is the drummer from the band Silent Season. And this is a band that actually we've just started playing a lot more of their latest song, Wounds. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first of all, David, thanks so much for joining me. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, JZ, what's up, man? I'm doing great. I really appreciate you having me on the show. This is awesome. Looking forward to this for a while. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, too, because back in 2018, you guys sent us the song called Stars, and I just really fell in love with the song, and I think our listeners did, too, and we spun it a lot here. And at that time, we weren't a 24/7 active rock station. We just had a nighttime program called The Dark. So we spun that a lot and got a lot of excitement, I guess, from our listeners on that. And so I'm kind of excited to find out more about the band Silent Season. And you told me you're from the Boston area, so Boston, Mass. So give us, I guess, the nuts and bolts of how Silent Season all came about.
Yeah. So I'll condense this down, but it really happened back in 2008. A few of us came out of other bands, and I met with our vocalist Jeremy Ray. We were gigging around the scene, and we literally, I say this on all interviews, we sat at a Wendy's randomly, and we said, you know what? We can do this on our own. I really think we can get this band together, and it was all history from there. It was over a Frosty and some French fries. But so yeah, no, and from there we were practicing out of my parents' house, and we started holding auditions, and finally Brendan Sheehan, our guitar player, came along, and the band started forming together. The three of us have been the glue over the years, and then we got another guitar player, Abner Anthony, who's in this project now, and a few other folks over the years, and we just came together, started writing, started playing shows. We set out to really try to accomplish a lot as this band. We, between going out and touring, doing some radio, we've toured with Seven Dust, 10 years, 12-Foot Ninja, to name a few, and we played thousands of shows, and we really wanted to push our name out there in the Northeast and specifically around New England. So it's been a trip from here, and we're still doing it to this day. We love what we do, and it's been an exciting path for us.
David, growing up as a kid, is this something that you always wanted to do, or did you have a different career path back in the day?
Well, it's funny, I started out young. I come from a very heavy music-driven family. My dad played around the Boston scene in the 70s with the Cars and Aerosmith, and that really triggered me to get interested in picking up an instrument, drums, and get going. And it's always after that it really struck with me. It's something that I want to do creatively, and really move forward with. I mean, right now I am working a little bit in marketing, as a full-time gig, but, wanting to try to make it in a band has been a kind of a lifelong goal, and I could say the same for the other folks in the band. So it's always been a goal and something we try to achieve, and we're keeping, we keep going, and we have our blinders on. I know there's a lot of, negativity out there in the world, Jay-Z, but we try to ignore it and move forward because we still believe in the product and, the support, and we try to do what we can.
Let's talk about the pandemic, obviously, that really kind of hampered the world in general, but also the music industry. And I guess, how did it hurt Silent Season, I guess?
Yeah. So with the pandemic, it definitely made it more of a challenge for the band to play live, go to venues and connect with our fans and be around fans in general, right? And even tour, especially even now to this date. I know things are starting to open up a bit across the states. But we even still see some major tours getting canceled, and folks getting COVID. And again, not to go down this path, but we've tried to play it safe, and really think about how do we want to approach it. So it's definitely has been a little bit of a damper on playing live and connecting, face to face with our fans. Just trying to be safe. But on a positive note, it's definitely helped us on the writing side too. It's been able to free up more time, being able to focus on the craft and develop more songs, look at some songs that we really like, and figure out marketing plans to get those songs out further, aka Wounds, right, as we talked about. And so it's been able to really help us shape and focus our efforts on marketing activities, writing new music, and keeping that engine part of the engine going.
The one thing with the pandemic that everybody, it did give them an opportunity to, I guess, sit back and maybe figure out themselves a little bit more. But there also was the scary side of it too, was the mental health of things. And I guess I'm kind of curious for yourself, your band, and even other bands around the area. How have they fared, I guess, on the mental health side of things?
Yeah, no, great question. I think at least I'll speak to myself to start. It's been challenging. Working from home all the time, really, wanting to focus on doing things with the band and going out there. And for me, in the band, it's playing live is number one for me. I love it. It's one of the greatest things and the greatest rushes to be able to go out there and perform for folks. But it's kind of drains you mentally because you wonder, hey, are we ever going to get out of this thing? Are we ever going to be able to go tour or play shows again? It got scary for a moment, but I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel that we're seeing, across the news, and not to go down the media path, but you know what I'm saying. So it's been relieving in that sense. And I could say for the other guys, I know they've been kind of down, and mentally, and it's been one of those things stressful between trying to figure out, it's sustaining as a band, going out there, playing shows, being able to get paid, right, and run a business. It's been challenging in that regard. So it's definitely some stresses there for sure, and making sure that we still stay out there at the market level, right, keeping the name out there. We didn't want to fall back and lose sight or have our fans lose sight of us as a band. So we really try to step up the social media and get the name out there even further. But, and to your last point of the question with other bands, I'm seeing the same thing across social media. A lot of our friends in other bands and even in national bands, they're feeling the same thing. There was a band, all these guys got COVID and they were on a big tour and they jumped on their bus and they were on their way back. Someone live streamed and literally they were all like, it looked like death. It's just tough, man. And I know that's definitely a damper for them because that's their livelihood. So it's tough, but I think we're definitely hopefully coming to the end of this and seeing the light.
We're talking to the drummer of the band Silent Season, Dave Pappalardo. And Dave, you mentioned getting your name out there and trying to be relevant to that, especially with the pandemic. I'm kind of curious on your thoughts about rock radio and I guess how that rock radio has helped you, or has it been difficult for you to get onto rock radio since you're kind of you've been around for a while, but you're a younger band?
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a challenge over the years, going from a baby band status, I like to call us regional, because we've built a base over the years regionally and somewhat a little bit nationally, but, not quite national recording status yet. But it's been one of those things. Radio as a medium has helped us a lot. I mean, between digital downloads, streaming, more folks getting our name, and also just listening to us in general. The exposure has been excellent for us. But with that being said, it's also been challenging at times. I mean, active rock radio, it's gone through its ups and downs, and I know the playlist can get tight at some times, but we again, as I mentioned earlier, we put the blinders on. We say, we know we're an unsigned band. We want to move forward. Let's see what we can do. There's always that, 2-3% chance that you can blow it up big. And so far with Wounds, we're seeing the return. I mean, the feedback has been great, and I think this is a great track for active rock, and the band feels strongly about that. So, it has its perks, it has its challenges, but at the end of the day, we're overcoming those challenges and pushing forward. So we definitely think radio is a strong medium, especially during the pandemic where touring has been lackluster because of everything going on. Radio is still a strong medium. I truly I believe that. And it's also great meeting other folks and being able to talk, and also, again, talking to you guys, Jay-Z, and making connections. So now we know we can, in the future, we can get out to the Little Falls area and be able to perform. So definitely radio helps build these strong bonds and relationships, and we like that. We're all about that.
Absolutely, we love it too, and it's something we have to think about here. We do a couple shows every year, radio shows, so we might have to have you on board. I'm sure you'd like that, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, that would be a blast. We'd love to get out there and play and make friends with everyone and just rock out once again.
Let's talk about that touring wise. What are the plans, I guess, in the future for you for touring?
Well, I'll start with the shows, and then, right now, going into 2022, we are scheduling a virtual performance. I know it's a little bit late in the game, but we are doing a virtual performance to get back out there. It's going to be live stream on a few different platforms, and we'll have more details on our social media as the date is released. We're starting with that, and then there's a few other shows that we're working on in the New England region that we're going to just, get back out there, start building it up again. And then we're going to take a look at, if it makes sense at the time, what kind of tours exist, whether it's a tour package or jumping on with another regional band that we're close with. And, we've got a couple of requests coming in the inbox on social about trying to do some mini tours with other bands, and we're kind of fielding the offers, and we're reaching out to other bands too, just trying to keep this very collaborative. So there's definitely going to be a goal of playing a lot of shows come 2022. So between individual shows, one-offs, and some touring.
Let's talk about the song Wounds, and you'd mentioned to me this is a song that actually you maybe put out a couple of years ago, or at least put on your album, EP, but now you're releasing it now. Let's talk about the song. What's the story behind this song?
Yeah, so I'll speak through the lens of what my singer, kind of the piece he put together behind the song, the meaning, right? So in a nutshell, Wounds is all about insecurities, fears, and doubts that manifest in everyday life for people. And it's really about, everyone has these reoccurring failings, but it's really up to that individual to either let those failings continue to haunt them in a negative way, or they can take control of them and move forward and be positive about it. Now, while I say that, I wanted to give you a little context to most of the songs that we write. Usually we try to put a positive message in all of our songs. And, we let the listener really come up with the way that they think the song, portrays a certain message to them. We leave it up to them to think about how they interpret these lyrics, right? But, we mold in a positive message, and you'll hear that in Stars. We have a song called Chance, Overcoming Addiction. We have several songs that have this important message, and it's important to us. We want to make sure the lyrical content has depth and the songs have a true meaning, so that we can convey this positive message to our fans, because that's always been the forte of this band. It's how can we put out a positive message, but also convey it in such a way that it has a great sound behind it, but it's also big choruses, heavy verses or bridges, but it tells a story that it conveys a positive message at the end of the day.
What's the future, I guess, for you guys for EP, album, or releasing singles one at a time? I guess, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, this is actually kind of funny. We've been releasing singles over the last year or two. It's for unsigned artists at least, and maybe I could speak to the national bands, but it seems like the single releases has become more of a common thing, especially with streaming at the forefront these days. And artists are testing the water by putting out new songs, getting a vibe from their base and their fans. And that's been something for us as well, just putting out new songs. I mean, we released a full length back in 2012 called Breaking Me Down, and then we released the War Within EP in 2017, and those were great for their times. But after that, it's been one of those things we were like, hey, how do we keep relevant? How do we stay out there and keep dropping tunes and building on the streams and building the story? And going the singles route has also been a way to do so. And actually, we were also on Doc Coyle from Bad Wolves podcast not too long ago. He played our tune over there, and he was sharing the same outlook as well. He's been noticing a lot of bands putting out singles, and I think Spirit Box was doing that at one point too. So it's been a common thing, and we like to kind of put ourselves in that position because we're seeing so much more response doing it. But I think at some point, if we budget a lot, we will do eventually another full length and kind of tease out more songs down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people like to having the singles come out, but also I think there's still some of that old school where they like the whole album too. And I don't know where you fall in that realm, but hey, it's forever whoever people like, I guess, for each their own, right?
Exactly. For me, I was always, I grew up with the tapes, cassette tapes, and then the full length CDs. I had my boom box. I'd throw the CD on and love 12 tracks. Those were great days. And vinyl's making an appearance again too. That's becoming hot with bands, right? So there's a lot of choices and a lot of different ways to get your music out there, and I think it's important to keep on those trends and from a listening perspective, but also like you said, keeping it fresh. You just because you're releasing all these singles, you can also looking at releasing a full length or an EP. So I think to be fair, we're going to look at our options down the line and see if a mix of that makes sense.
Awesome. I got to get going here, but I want to get you at least to let people know if they want more information about Silent Season. How can they get more information about your band?
Yeah, Jay-Z, this has been great. Yeah, fans can find our materials and music on silentseasonmusic.com. At that website, you'll find all our social profiles with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, etc. If you type in our name on Google, you're going to find a lot of results. It won't be hard to miss. We're all over the internet, and we respond and talk to all of our fans online. So we look forward to getting some messages. And again, JC, thank you for having us on the show, and we're hoping to get out there soon so we can play in the Little Falls area and catch up. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave. Once again, that is Dave Pappalardo. He is the drummer for the band Silent Season. Their latest song is Wounds. You're hearing it right now. It's on The Dark. It's on 94 Rocks.